Hello everyone, we have today Yashas Hari Prasad, our old student who went to Florida International University initially after finishing the bachelor's degree. So he applied for a direct PhD and he got through, and he's here in India for a small break of 15 days. So we thought we'll just connect with him and then ask him some questions on his journey of his direct PhD. So I welcome you, Yashas, to India, and then a pleasure having you back with Maven Consulting Services. And I want you to explain, why did you opt for a direct PhD? What was the objective behind it? Because most of the students come and tell us that they want to do a master's and then probably they want to go for a PhD. And we have a lot of students who are interested in a direct PhD. So how did this idea come about and why did you think of this?
Yes. So my field of interest was computer science from very long time. So yes, of course, a lot of students directly want to go for masters and then do PhD, because most of them are not aware that US accepts direct PhD applications. So that is the first point. The second point is, doing a direct PhD has a major advantage of saving time for almost 2 to 3 years. So if you do your masters, it's going to take 2 years plus again 4 or 5 years of PhD. But if you do the PhD directly, you can complete it well within 3.5 to 4 years if you can complete your research.
Okay. What were the kind of challenges you felt that you had to overcome when you were applying for a direct PhD? Mm-hmm. Because there would be a lot of applicants who would have completed masters and would be applying for PhD. But then you applied directly for a PhD. So what did you think was a bottleneck there?
Applying for a PhD is directly from undergraduate is actually an advantage in the US, because if you have some research experience in your undergraduate, probably like publishing a paper or attending few conferences, that gives you an upper edge in admission. But until unless it all depends on your interests and how capable are you in problem solving or critical thinking. So that itself is an entry point for you. There is nothing very specific that you need to be very strong in comparison with the master students.
Wonderful. Also, did you connect with any professors from the department beforehand, before applying for a direct PhD, to figure out that is there any kind of funding available, or you went ahead and directly applied for a PhD?
No, I did contact a professor. I had met the professor when I did my internship during my undergraduate. I did my internship in the US for 3 months. So during that time, I had a connection with the professor. So it's always advisable to connect to a professor, because even if you get admitted for all your scholarships and all your assistantships and your processing of your further PhD process, it is always better to have a professor.
Some of our students always have this complaint that we do write to professors, but they do not reply to the emails.
Yes.
So how do we tackle that?
So my personal suggestion is to write emails to more number of people and then keep writing repeated emails. And when you're writing,
that shouldn't bug them.
No, it would. I'm coming there. So when you're writing an email, so try to be very specific about what you're writing. So if you write a very big paragraph, they don't read. So space out your email very well, and send your resume out and format your resume. That is very important. A lot of students do not do that. So
wonderful.
That makes a
difference. Now, when you got your PhD, I believe that came up with some stipend and assistantship as well.
Yes.
So what was that amount and how did it go?
Okay. So generally in the US, most of the PhD students get an assistantship either through the department or through the professor. So most of the time, I personally got a complete tuition waiver and also a stipend of around $2,000 per month, so which would cover more or less most of my living expenses. So most of the PhDs cover this. Yes.
So all applicants who are thinking of pursuing a PhD, a direct PhD like you, what is your piece of advice for them? How they can aim for this and maximize the stipend and stuff?
Yes. So when you're aiming for a PhD, I'd say start preparing very early, probably a year or two before you apply for a PhD. So you can start preparing for about your research, start formulating ideas. It may not be very technical and very core, be very simple and just be creative. You just have to have critical solving or problem solving skills. And also format your resume. That is very important. I learned this when I was in my second year of undergrad. A lot of students do not do that.
Yes.
So that becomes a very major point. Because in the US, when a professor looks at your email, they try to just read the key points, keywords in the email, and then they open the attachment of and then they scan through your resume. So your resume should be again spaced out and try to keep it limited to 2 pages.
Wonderful. And having said that, how is a typical day of a PhD student like you in the US?
Yes.
What actually goes into it?
Well, usually when you get into a PhD, first year would be more of coursework. So it would be very similar to a master's student. But moving forward, probably in your second year or your third year when you start your research, it gets a little intense. I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and then I start doing some work. Then I go to school at around 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And then I stay in school until 5 o'clock doing my research. Then probably on the weekends, I sometimes go out. I usually don't work on Sundays.
Okay.
So I take a week off or
You
day
need
off
it.
on Sundays.
You definitely need it. Yes.
And yes, I go to bed at around 11 o'clock in the night.
So that's how it is.
It's very spaced out. It's not too stressful.
Okay. And this is phased out in about 5 years program, or how does it work?
The US government recommends all the universities' PhD programs to be 7 years. That is the official given timeline. But again, PhD everything depends on your major professor. So if you complete your research, you can very well graduate your master's and PhD well within 3 or 3.5 years. So
it all depends on your guide or
yes.
your professor
and your research.
Yes. What is the most challenging thing when you are doing this PhD without a master's? Because in your class, I'm sure there would be people who would have completed a master's and would be doing PhD, and you've gone for a direct PhD.
Yes.
So when you compare your classmates or the other people there, do you find any challenges?
No, I personally feel what I'm doing is an advantage for me rather than looking at it as a challenge, because yes, they have completed masters and they have some kind of theoretical knowledge which can be applied for research. That is an advantage for them. But for me, I have to go through the coursework again. But that is an advantage for me because I'm using the up-to-date knowledge and I'm doing my research as well. So it's actually an advantage.
An advantage is what you say. That's wonderful. Finally, what kind of positions you feel you could take up in the US completion of your PhD? Because you know that if it was a master's degree, then they look for jobs and then they go for placements and stuff and all that, or career fairs and stuff. But as a PhD applicant, what are the avenues that you're looking at?
Yes. So a very interesting point is that as soon as you finish your PhD, so this opens the door for wider opportunities. One, you can go into academics. You can either become a professor or a researcher in any universities. Two, you can apply for national labs in the United States, which is very, very competitive, and only PhD applicants can apply there. And then you can also go into the industry, the private industry, which again, a PhD student has a very big upper edge advantage when they're applying.
And the H-1B thing works the same for them as well, the lottery and stuff and all that.
It pretty much works the same, but PhD again has an advantage. They can directly apply for O1 or
yes.
EB1 or EB2. Yes. So that's a very big advantage.
That definitely separates you from the rat race of this H-1B.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Even during the H-1B, I have heard that they prefer or they give preference to PhD students.
Yes, they do give preferences to PhD applicants for sure, yes. Fine, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sure this piece of information will be a guide to a lot of students, and maybe we'll flash your email ID to any of our students who need. Maybe we'll not flash your phone number, but your email ID will be shared, and if anybody wants to get in touch with you and they want to know, we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
And we hope to keep in touch with you.
Thank you. This was a pleasure meeting you. And
Thank
it was
you.
very good. Thank you so much.
Yes.